Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Warning, this video contains spoilers for both the movie and novel, 2001 A Space Odyssey.
Hello and welcome to this video. Today's video is going to be about the 1968 Stanley Kubrick film 2001 A Space Odyssey. This is an interesting movie slash book. The book was written by Arthur C. Clarke. Part of the lore behind this is the book and the movie were being written simultaneously at the same time, and they kind of consulted with each other, but they didn't, and they did on some things, and things were changed because of limitations in filming, and it all got kicked off because Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke were sitting around together one day, dropped some acid. We're going through some of the novellas that Clarke had written and decided to adapt one into a full novel and movie. Now, a lot of that has been confirmed. The one thing that has been confirmed or hasn't been confirmed is it's kind of ambiguous where it's at, and that's the whole dropping LSD. I've seen interviews in which Clarke alludes to it, kind of smile, wink, wink type thing. And the interviews that I've seen with Kubrick just kind of glosses over it. So it's one of those things where the lore behind the making of the movie is probably greater than the reality. But this is the 60s, though. This is the time of Timothy Leary and Terence McKenna and Ram Dass and all that. So it's, it could go either way. Especially with the near the end, from the point that Dave, can't remember his last name, Dave, our astronaut reaches David Bowman reaches the monolith by Jupiter to the end of the movie. Yeah, that right there is where I think a lot of the LSD bleeds into the lore. Now, me personally, would I like it to be true? Yes. Chances of it being true, I would say 50-50. I think it's a coin toss. Because Kubrick, if you look at the quality of Kubrick's movies and how just wonderful they are and how they they stimulate both the visual and the audio senses. Yeah, I think Kubrick did acid. And I'm pretty sure Arthur C. Clarke did. I think Clarke was in that generation of authors like Heinlein and Philip K. Dick. And who's the other one? There's an author I'm forgetting. The thing is, Frank Herbert, Dune. I did like 3-4 videos on his works, but Philip K. Dick, Robert Heinlein, Frank Herbert. I think Clarke was in that mix. You know, they all smoked a little bit and probably dropped a little bit of acid. Got a little elevated, sat down and did the work. Nothing wrong with it. Not judging. In fact, I am in a very, very wrong place to try and judge. But no. This was a one of those movies that imprinted itself on everybody of the time, and probably still to this day. The short story, from what I understand, that kicked everything off that Clarke had wrote was The Sentinel, which he originally published. He originally published in 1951. So, yeah, they basically expanded that into a full-length story, while simultaneously doing the movie. Just a side note, and this is another one of those things where I've read it multiple times, but I've never seen any kind of citation. But it's one of those lore things that I would love to be just really, really, to be true. And that is, part of the lore is because of Stanley Kubrick's attention to detail, that the moon base and all the moon base stuff, the Soviet government at the time accused the United States of having a base on the moon already, a military base on the moon. That Kubrick, just by looking at what the scientists were giving him and making guesses as a director, was so spot on. Hence, this is where we get the what's it called? The faked moon landing. That Kubrick actually filmed the moon landing. That's the reason, the whole thing, that the moon landing was a hoax. That big garbage fire of a conspiracy, dumpster fire of a conspiracy gone wild. However, this movie, and there's going to be spoilers from, I've already spoiled things. Hopefully I'm smart enough to put a spoiler thing at the beginning. But the basic premise of the movie is the evolution of man through what means the monolith is used as a catalyst The beginning starts with the Donna Man. We have our group of ancestors. They're portrayed as apes or monkeys, which I don't care for, simply because apes and monkeys and chimpanzees and humans share common ancestry. We didn't evolve from each other. We didn't evolve from monkeys. We didn't evolve from apes. We evolved from a common ancestor. And they're not giving us our common ancestor. And I think a lot of that had to do with the common knowledge of the time, even our common knowledge now. There are a lot of people in this day and age that think we evolved from monkeys. We didn't. We evolved from a common ancestor. At some point, the main branch, our branch came here, and their branches, all over the place. But that's just a little nitpick of mine. It does not affect my overall enjoyment of the movie. And the monolith appearing, some aliens dropped it off or whatever. We don't know. It's left kind of ambiguous. Our monkey in the movie touches it. In the novel, his name is Stargazer, and the touching of the monolith, being brave enough to touch it, triggers the evolution of the human mind, and we go from being prey to becoming predators. Tools, weapons, what have you. The monolith is that catalyst. And there are parallels between the monolith and that whole catalyst and that evolution and Terence McKenna's Stone Ape theory. It's actually a hypothesis. I think the reason why it's called the Stone Ape theory is because people outside of academia generally don't know the difference between how a hypothesis becomes a theory and a theory becomes a law. So the Stone Ape hypothesis, I've said that word so many times it's getting hard to say. But we kick forward in time, late 1990s, 1900s for you kids out there. Another monolith is found in the moon. And because the scientists trigger it, it sends a message to Jupiter, and we find our way on a spaceship to Jupiter. David Bowman and Gary Poole. Which is funny, I worked with a Gary Poole when I worked TDC. That was no, Frank Poole. Never mind. I worked with a Gary Poole, Poole. Frank Poole. Excuse me, I got that wrong. I've been known to do that though. But yeah, Gary Lockwood portrayed Frank Poole, and Keira Duella was Dave Bowman. I'm not Keir Duella Duellea is David Bowman, and for some reason it's confusing my brain. But we jump forward. We're on our way to Jupiter, which was originally Saturn, because but because of the filming, limitations of filming in 1968, they couldn't do the rings to Kubrick's standards, so they changed to Jupiter. We have some computer interactions. Our HAL 9000 computer, which is AI, which is kind of concerning in this day and age, goes haywire and goes to murdering folks. But our hero, David Bowman, R.I.P. Frank Bull, manages to get everything calmed down, deactivates our AI computer, and hits the and makes the rest of the journey, and basically goes through a labyrinth of craziness, colors, objects, henceforth the LSD reference, or the LSD working into the lore of the movie. It is widely accepted and known that a lot of the people who went and watched this movie in 68, and while it was in theaters, first 2, 3, 4, 5, even to this day, will, at the intermission, this is one of the last movies that has an intermission, will at the intermission drop a tab of acid, which will kick in by the time we get to the pretty lights and shapes and the finale of the movie. So it's one of those movies that I'll watch it 2-3 times a year. It is just one of those movies that I enjoy. There's not a lot of action. There's not. I think it's like almost 3-hour movie. There's less than 15 minutes of dialogue. It's all music. It's a movie you have to watch. It's a visually stimulating movie. So that's kind of wrapping it up for 2001: A Space Odyssey. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's having fun. And a reminder, be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?